May 1945. A dirt road in the Bavarian Alps. 2 armored cars, 2 jeeps, 10 American soldiers, and in front of them, blocking the road, 700 armed German troops. The Americans are outnumbered 70-1. Their commander doesn't slow down. He's not here for prisoners. He's not even here for territory. He's here for one man, a physicist hiding in a mountain cabin 2 days after Adolf Hitler put a gun to his own head. And the colonel in that jeep is about to bluff 700 soldiers into surrendering to a force 1/70th their size. It works, not because of firepower, because of nerve. This is the Alsos mission, a unit most people have never heard of, built to answer the one question that could have changed the outcome of the entire war. Did Hitler already have the bomb? And this is the day it caught its biggest prize. 3 years earlier, one question kept American planners awake. Did Germany have the atomic bomb? The man running the Manhattan Project, General Leslie Groves, needed an answer, not from theory, but from the ground. So he built a strange hybrid unit, soldiers, spies, and physicists, moving together behind enemy lines. He named it Alsos, Greek for grove, a private joke at his own expense. Its job wasn't just to stop a German bomb. Intelligence already suspected the German program was behind. The real mission was denial. Grab the scientists, the paperwork, the raw uranium, before a second enemy got there first. Because by 1944, the war behind the war was already the one that mattered. The race against the Soviet Union for what Germany had built. Alsos wasn't a normal unit. It fused combat engineers, counterintelligence agents, and working physicists into a single traveling team. Soldiers who could fight their way into a building, and scientists standing right behind them, who could tell in minutes whether what they'd found was scrap metal or the most dangerous secret on Earth. The man chosen to lead the manhunt on the ground was Colonel Boris Pash, born Boris Pashkovsky, son of a Russian Orthodox priest. As a teenager, he'd fought the Bolsheviks at sea during Russia's Civil War, awarded a medal for combat before he could legally drink, and watched one empire collapse beneath him. He fled to America, changed his name, and started over as a physical education teacher. By 1944, that former teacher was hunting the wreckage of a second collapsing regime, one armed, potentially, with the most dangerous weapon ever built. Twice in one lifetime, Boris Pash found himself standing in the ruins of a falling empire. The second time, he was the one holding the flashlight. November 1944. American troops take Strasbourg. Within hours, also scientific chief Samuel Goudsmit is inside the university, digging through abandoned offices. He finds something extraordinary: the private files of German physicist Carl von Weizsäcker, and personal correspondence from Germany's most famous physicist, Werner Heisenberg himself. Reading them line by line, Goudsmit reaches a conclusion that will reshape the entire Allied understanding of the war. Germany's bomb program isn't close. It isn't even in the same league as the one in New Mexico. It's a strange kind of victory, one not with a gun, but with a filing cabinet. One afternoon of careful reading answers a question that entire armies had been organized around. For Goudsmit, the mission was never purely academic. He was Dutch and Jewish. Somewhere in the ruins of the Netherlands was the house where his parents had lived, until they were deported. While chasing Germany's nuclear secrets, Goudsmit found something else: German administrative records, precise to the day, showing exactly when his mother and father had been murdered. They'd had visas to escape to America. They missed it by days. He kept working. There was no other choice. The same bureaucratic precision that had recorded his parents' deaths was, days later, helping him prove that the men who served that regime had failed to build its ultimate weapon.
You just watched one file. Dozens more are on this wall. Subscribe to catch what's next. And now, back to where you left off.
April 1945. Alsos teams push into Stassfurt and uncover the largest German uranium stockpile of the war. Over 1,000 tons of raw ore, sitting in a salt mine. There's a problem. This ground is about to fall inside the Soviet occupation zone. So American trucks move fast, hauling the ore out before the front line, and the new map of Europe, catches up with them. Also's units among the first Americans into Paris seize another cache of uranium and more documents. Piece by piece, the raw material that might have armed a Nazi weapon is instead redirected into an American one, a straight line running from a German salt mine to a facility in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Late April 1945. Alsos traces Heisenberg's secret experiment to Haigerloch, a small town built into a cliffside, and finds it hidden in a wine cellar carved beneath a castle church. Inside, hundreds of uranium cubes, strung on cable into a hanging lattice, lowered into a tank of heavy water. Germany's most advanced attempt at a self-sustaining nuclear reaction. It had never worked. 3 years of secret effort, moved from Berlin to a wine cellar to escape Allied bombs, and it amounted to an experiment that had never once achieved a self-sustaining reaction. The scientists refused to give up the location of their research records until interrogation revealed the truth. The documents hadn't been hidden in a vault. They'd been sealed in a drum and dumped in a cesspool just outside the lab. Allied officers rolled up their sleeves and dug the war's most sensitive nuclear secrets out of raw sewage. Nearby, buried in an open field, they found more, barrels of heavy water and over a ton of uranium ingots, hidden in the dirt like stolen treasure. But Heisenberg himself was gone, fled a week earlier by train, then by bicycle, nearly 200 miles across a collapsing Germany, to reach his family hiding in the mountains. Pash set out after him with 10 men. On the road to Urfeld, they ran straight into 700 surrendering German troops. Pash didn't blink. He projected total confidence, implied a force far larger than his own, and the Germans stood down. Days after Hitler's death, in a quiet lakeside cabin, Boris Pash knocked on the door and took Werner Heisenberg into custody. The most important physicist in Nazi Germany surrendered not to an army, but to 10 men in 2 jeeps, and a colonel who understood that a bluff, delivered without hesitation, could end a hunt that armies had spent years chasing. 10 of Germany's top nuclear mines were flown to England and held at Farm Hall, a country manor outside Cambridge. They thought it was simple internment. Every room was secretly wired with hidden microphones. On August 6, 1945, they heard a BBC broadcast. An atomic bomb had destroyed Hiroshima. Their recorded reaction was pure disbelief. They didn't think it was even possible yet. Not all of them reacted the same way. Some of the 10, more sympathetic to the regime they'd served, seemed dismayed. Not that the bomb existed, but that they hadn't been the ones to build it first. Otto Hahn, the chemist whose 1938 discovery had made the bomb theoretically possible, was described as completely shattered. He told colleagues he'd once considered taking his own life over what his discovery might unleash. Now it had happened, and hundreds of thousands were dead. In the hidden recordings, Heisenberg admitted something startling. In 6 years of work, he had never even calculated the critical mass needed to build the weapon. Heisenberg himself later confided that, at the bottom of his heart, he was almost glad the German effort had aimed at a reactor, an engine, and never actually became a bomb. Goudsmit's final verdict, based on everything Alsos had recovered, was blunt. Germany had no atomic bomb and was nowhere near building one. 2 rival German teams had splintered the effort instead of combining it, and neither ever came close to a working chain reaction. It was the single most important negative finding of the entire war. Without it, Allied leadership would have had to plan for the worst, indefinitely. An arms race against an enemy that, it turned out, was never actually in the race at all. Alsos became the blueprint for a new kind of warfare, hunting knowledge, not just territory. The Soviets ran their own version of the same mission. Within the year, America would chase German rocket scientists the exact same way, not with infantry divisions, but with small, fast teams built to reach the right file cabinet, the right laboratory, the right man, before anyone else did. And the man who led the ground hunt, a boy who'd once watched an empire collapse from the deck of a warship, spent the rest of his career making sure the next one never got the weapon that could end the world first. He'd learned, at 19, what it looked like when a regime fell apart. In 1945, He made sure he was the one standing in the wreckage when the next one did.